For educational critical review and reaction is Jordan Maxwell on the Catholics and Jehovah's Witnesses.
It's interesting that you were Catholic because what we've seen in the last 10 or 20 years, maybe, is a lot of dark secrets coming out about what is going on, especially in the Vatican. And
they're
talked
far more darker yet than you know.
really.
Far more darker than you even suspect.
Could you please start going into that
Well, I don't think
that alley?
I don't think that's very safe for me doing that. But,
Really? You have spoken about what is happening in the Vatican.
First of all, I always try and say that I am not the world's foremost authority on anything. I am smart enough to know how much I don't know. But I'm also smart enough to know that you're not going to be perfect on everything. So sometimes maybe it's just your opinion, and your opinion may be wrong. And so I try and tell people that I'm not the world's foremost authority. I prefer to think of myself as just an ordinary man pursuing extraordinary knowledge.
But now you're actually, I hope we can reveal your age.
Yes, I'm 77. As of December, this past December, I am now 77 years old.
Wow.
I feel like 120, but I'm 77.
Wow.
And what's really interesting to me is
because you've done so much.
I scare myself thinking about all the strange places I've been.
And people you've known.
And people I've known, and yet I'm still alive. I will give you my opinion on the world scene today.
Yes.
I believe, it's just my belief, based on 58 years of experience. I believe that there is a concerted, organized, conspiratorial movement in the world, and I refer to it the way it refers to itself, as the World Revolutionary Movement. Most people have never heard that term, but it's called the World Revolutionary Movement. And basically, it is the power, the political power, the money, and the wherewithal to make things happen in the world that's behind all sides. The communists are being promoted, financed, organized, and directed by somebody, while the Nazis and Adolf Hitler was being financed and directed by somebody. And then you find out that the Mormon church becomes very powerful and a lot of money and prestige, and the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Seventh-day Adventists and Scientology, all of the major religions in the world, somebody's financing them. Somebody knows what's going on, and it's not what you think. And so when you begin to see the major religious movements in the world, and Jehovah's Witnesses is one cult that I know about. I know things about the Jehovah's Witnesses. Most people will never be privy to know.
Really?
Yes.
Like what?
For instance, I went out to dinner back in I don't know what it was, 67, 68, in Los Angeles. There was a big Jehovah's Witness convention, big one. And so three of the, what they call the governing body, the 12 men who sit in New York City, who govern the whole movement of Jehovah's Witnesses, well, three of them were there in Los Angeles, and I happened to be in the company with them. And my dear friend, a young friend my age, was part of family with one of them. So he got to go where his uncle, who was on the governing body. And since I was his close friend, he could always get me in to go. And so I went to dinner with the three members of the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses.
You're observing.
Yeah, just observing. When the conversation finally quieted down, I asked one of the members of the governing body, once a year you put out a yearbook telling the world what you've done and what you're doing and all that. And in the yearbook this year, it says something to the effect that the Watchtower Society has paid out in salaries over $67 million, which does not account for all the money that they're buying land and property and printing presses and big properties in Europe and opening up big operations and printing operations in Asia. All that's all big money. But they said they just pay out $67 million in just salaries alone for construction, for people who are doing things for them.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money. And so I said to him, I'm aware of Jehovah's Witnesses in Los Angeles. And some of the wealthiest areas where Jehovah's Witnesses are, they tell me they're having problems just paying their rent.
Oh, so
Yeah.
they didn't spend the money,
Yeah.
money or get it.
And so the Jehovah's Witnesses who are living in Beverly Hills or in these wealthy areas, but they're telling me that they're just because they're in a wealthy area, that doesn't mean they're filthy rich. And so they are having problems paying their rent and paying utilities and things.
Right.
And so I said, Jehovah's Witnesses are not known as being a wealthy, powerful
No.
organization.
No.
And yet they're buying properties all over the world. They're buying printing presses. That's not cheap. And they're paying out $67 million in just salaries alone. Where are you getting the money? That's what I'm curious about. Because
Right.
all the witnesses I know in wealthy areas here in LA, they don't have anything. They're struggling just to pay their bills like everybody else. There was a young man, young Greek boy, but I didn't realize, was the chief accountant for the Watchtower Bible Tract Society. He's the chief accountant. So I said, so where are the Jehovah's Witnesses getting this money?
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, in front of everyone, he said, we have 2 corporate accounts. So I said, explain that to me. He said that we have an open account. I said, what does that mean, open account? And he said, basically it means once a year they give us a checkbook. And whatever you write is covered. That's simple.
Oh, how convenient.
Very. And I said, you mean on the scale that Jehovah's Witness Watchtower spends money? They're writing out millions of dollars in checks and it's covered? And he
To
said,
whom? To the people in the administration?
yeah, the administration of Jehovah's Witnesses, the governing body, the New York headquarters. Well, when they write checks, those are big checks. Well, he just got to telling me that it's covered. Don't worry about it. Whatever you write is covered. So I thought to myself, wait a minute. I didn't say anything, but it struck me that Jehovah's Witnesses are always talking about this evil world and all these evil people and the bankers and the evil government. And yet it's the Rockefellers and J.P. Morgan that are financing you.
Why would they do that, the Rockefellers and J.P. Morgan?
Because Jehovah's Witnesses, like all the other York Rite religious systems, they're referred to as York Rite systems, are preparing the people around the world to accept a political establishment which is coming. And the political government which is coming, is not here quite yet, is going to be promoting that they are from God, it's God's kingdom. And God is bringing a new, wonderful, new order to the world. It's called the New World Order. The New World Order. That's what it says in the Watchtower publications. Many, many times in Watchtower publications, it talks about the coming New World Order, in which the Lord himself, God, will oversee this new government, and there will be a wonderful new way to live, and no more war, and it's all going to be wonderful, and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds are paying for it. You like that? And I thought, no, something's wrong here. So that was the beginning of my beginning to find out what's really going on here in the world. And now, today, it is my opinion that there is not one single religion, not a political or spiritual philosophy like Hindus or Buddhists, These are philosophical systems.
Mhm.
But I'm talking about actual churches.
Organized
churches. All
Catholics.
of those churches,
Mhm.
synagogues, mosques, all of these different major institutions, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, are all corporations. They're all corporations. Money.
So how would you describe the New World Order? What exactly is that? We've heard presidents and world leaders and figures, political figures, talk about the New World Order for many years. And it's actually all over the world that they talk about that. But why do they do that? A lot of people still don't know what the New World Order is or haven't even been listening when they mention it.
Yeah. And I have been called many times. I have been called a conspiracy theorist. No. Correctly is understanding, I'm a conspiracy analyst. I'm analyzing the world I live in. What I do today used to be called a journalist, an investigative reporter, someone who spent many years reading and studying and researching a particular organization or particular subject. And then one day they write a major book on the subject. Why? Because they know what they're talking about. They've been looking at it for all many, many years. And so they were referred to as research analysts. And the government is very concerned about research analysts because the U.S. government, like all other governments, have things like the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, because governments don't care if you're a believer. You go to a church or go to a synagogue or whatever, and you're referred to as a believer. Governments don't care what you believe. Freedom of religion. They don't care what you believe. They want to know what you're doing. They don't care what you believe. So they have organizations called CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. They don't want to hear what you believe. They want to know who you really are. How much money do you really have, and what are you doing behind the scene that government don't know about? We don't care what you believe. They want intelligence. And so that's why I say, I'm not interested in what you believe. I want to know. I want proof. And so that's why there's a big difference today between being a believer and somebody who has done his homework.
But very often when people like you and others talk about things that are so otherworldly and out there and wild, for a lot of people, they just can't take it in. How they will say, how can you, Jordan Maxwell, prove what you're saying? I mean, maybe not necessarily about the New World Order and that structure, because it's more, say, if we can say down to earth. But if we're no longer down to earth and we go into space and alien races and all of these things that we also want to cover today,
I understand.
then how can you prove that?
That's right. And I understand. And I would suspect that that's a very good question. I don't have any problem with that. My answer would be that I don't need to prove it. I am just an ordinary man pursuing extraordinary knowledge. And I have been in the company of very powerful people that you don't know that I know. And I've had conversations that you were not privy to know about. And so I don't need to prove anything.
And they revealed that there are things going on in the universe that we are certainly not being told here on Earth.
Obviously. I have had events in my life that I was there and I was an eyewitness to, that I saw with my own eyes. And I know who they were, I saw what they did, and they know that I was there and saw them.
Can you reveal some of that?
I don't think so. Because I could tell you some stories about very famous people that will probably get me hurt.